Hi everyone, I'm Rhea.
Hey, I'm Navneet.
I am Long Hui.
I'm Ima.
And I'm Olivia, and this is our RMIN 317 SeaWorld Risk Assessment for Group 19.
All right. SeaWorld is an American theme park centered around aquatic life, which operates in Orlando, San Diego, and San Antonio. It has a unique and extensive zoological collection and strong brand recognition. The park offers various entertainment options such as rides and marine animal shows and aim to connect its guests to its mission of protecting animals through an enjoyable customer experience. Along with its core objective of creating guests experience that matter, SeaWorld pursues environmental conservation initiatives and rescue and rehabilitation efforts. Although SeaWorld takes precautions to minimize risk, such as only operating in the United States, they have a relatively high risk appetite. The line of business that they are in has greater risk than most, as they are operating dangerous rides as well as housing many different kinds of marine life. With the current COVID-19 situation, SeaWorld experienced a 30% decline in attendance and revenue for the first quarters with the closures of its theme parks. The pandemic also led to 90% of SeaWorld's workers being temporarily laid off.
Strategic risks. The top strategic risk for SeaWorld is that governments have the potential to change regulations that are essential to a large portion of SeaWorld's current operations. One example of this is the California Orca Protection Act of 2017 that makes it illegal to breed and show orcas in captivity. This forced SeaWorld to pledge to no longer capture, breed, or show orcas, which originally were an integral part of their business operations, including their famous One Ocean show. Currently, they are still allowed to breed and show many of their other animals. However, it is likely that they may no longer be able to do so, as there are bills currently proposed to ban the breeding and showing of their dolphins as well. A significant portion of SeaWorld's attractions directly revolve around their animal shows and interactive exhibits, so the potential change of regulations regarding their animals would have severe consequences on their revenues. Another top strategic risk is the change in consumer taste regarding the use of animals for entertainment. From 2009 to 2013, SeaWorld's yearly revenues steadily increased. However, after the 2013 release of the popular movie Blackfish, which depicts SeaWorld in an extremely negative light, their yearly revenues began to decline. Society is becoming steadily intolerant to the use of animals for entertainment purposes, as many places have banned using wild animals for entertainment. There are also many activist movements encouraging people to boycott places such as SeaWorld, which cause reputational damage for the company and a loss of customers. Hazard risks. The top hazard risk for SeaWorld is their animal risk. Due to their extensive housing of marine life, it is possible for an accident to occur if staff are inadequately trained or fail to follow safety procedures, which may cause all of their marine life to die, such as every tank becoming contaminated at once. If something like this were to occur, there would be severe costs to SeaWorld, including the cost of disruption for no longer having animals for daily operations, the cost of having to acquire new animals, and most importantly, the severe reputational damage and public outrage that would stem from an incident of this nature. Another hazard risk for SeaWorld is liability risk. Being as though SeaWorld engages in many high-risk activities, there is the potential for a guest to become severely injured or killed on a SeaWorld attraction. Though no SeaWorld guest has died due to proven negligence from SeaWorld, if a severe incident were to occur due to SeaWorld's negligence, they may have to pay a significant amount in legal fees, and they may suffer reputational damage as well, as people may no longer feel safe at their parks.
Operational risks. Our first risk in this category is failed security processes. SeaWorld has a duty to all people, employees and guests alike, to provide them with utmost safety while on the grounds of the theme park. Extremists who believe that the business is not ethical may stage an attack to make a statement. If a terrorist is able to get through security checks unnoticed and attack other civilians, guests would lose their trust in the business's ability to keep them safe, which would lead to a significant decline in customer turnout. The second risk we identified under operational is third-party risk. Third-party contractors are often responsible for building and continuing to maintain high-quality rides and attractions. By entrusting this duty to contractors, SeaWorld opens itself up to the risk that contractors could, intentionally or not, build rides that are not sturdy or sustainable enough. This could ultimately lead to rides having to go out of order, to undergo maintenance frequently, which could interfere with SeaWorld's ability to operate at normal or maximum capacity. Now on to financial risks. The first top risk identified in this section is the risk of insufficient funds for capital expenditure. SeaWorld has a high degree of leverage, which poses us a challenge because a significant portion of cash flows that should be dedicated towards capital expenditure and future business opportunities now has to be used to pay off some of the company's indebtedness. Seeing as SeaWorld is in an industry where remaining competitive is crucial, if the company is unable to gather the funds it needs, particularly right now with its current financial predicament, it risks fading into obscurity. Next, we have the loss of normal profits due to unforeseen events. Not all risks can easily be detected, and the COVID-19 pandemic is one of such events that had a major impact on the revenue earned for SeaWorld. The pandemic hit at the most crucial operational time for theme parks, which is right at the start of spring or summer break. Heavy lockdown guidelines and social restrictions led to SeaWorld closing its park doors. The financial statements show a drastic decline, as we see in the second quarter of 2020, where revenue decreased about $388 million in comparison to 2019. Now for our top risks. Based on all our research, we identified our top four risks for SeaWorld to be the risk to animals, adverse publicity or change in consumer taste, changing regulations, and the risk of insufficient funds for capital expenditure.
Being that SeaWorld is centered around aquatic life, animal regulations pose a serious risk to the company. We believe SeaWorld should treat the risk of changing regulations through loss control. By carefully complying with the current regulations, SeaWorld can potentially reduce the need for further regulations. This can be done through exceptional animal care, conservation efforts, and rescue and rehabilitation initiatives. Further, a change in regulations would likely be the result of animal activism. By engaging the proper treatment of its animals and in various wildlife initiatives, SeaWorld could potentially lessen this activism. Currently, SeaWorld contributes scientifically and financially to organizations centered around research, conservation education, animal rescue and rehabilitation, and habitat protection. Through the SeaWorld and Busch Gardens Conservation Fund, $16.5 million has gone towards over 1,200 conservation projects across the world. Also, SeaWorld's animal rescue teams rescued over 38,000 animals with the goal of rehabilitation and release back into the wild. We suggest continuing these efforts to manage the risk of changes in regulations. We also suggest that SeaWorld should stay aware of the criticisms of animal activist movements and attempt to incorporate some of the changes that activists are pushing for. This effort could eradicate the need for more drastic measures, such as strict regulations against the captivity of animals. Recently, PETA has been engaged in anti-SeaWorld campaigns with a push for seaside sanctuaries in which animals would receive the care they need while being in their natural environment. Therefore, we suggest that SeaWorld should continue its research of the well-being of animals and explore the possibility of making a shift towards seaside sanctuaries, which have already been adopted by other marine parks. In order for SeaWorld to be successful, we believe it needs to anticipate animal activism that could lead to more strict regulations and threaten its operations. To treat the risk associated with harm to animals, we suggest providing vigorous training to employees and trainers in the appropriate care of the animals. Along with extensive training programs, managers should consistently do performance evaluations on the employees to ensure high standards and compliance with the appropriate safety precautions. Further, the environment of the animals should be assessed daily. A severe risk to the animals is tank contamination, which could lead to numerous animals getting sick or dying. Therefore, SeaWorld should have experts on staff to ensure that safety codes for the enclosures of the animals are being followed. Also, to reduce the severity of harm to animals, veterinarians should be available 24/7 to treat any animal illness or injury. Taking these precautions are critical in not only keeping the animals safe and maintaining normal operations, but also protecting SeaWorld from severe backlash and activism.
To mitigate the risk of adverse publicity, SeaWorld needs to use the method of loss reduction, which includes strengthening their marketing and PR strategy. Subsequently, they should consider risk avoidance by shifting their focus from aquatic life to thrill rides, etc. After the Blackfish controversy, revenue dropped significantly by 5.65% that year. Attendance at its San Diego park dropped 12%, which was the steepest decline among the top 20 theme parks in North America. Barry Crockett, an analyst at investment bank FBR who covers SeaWorld, stated that there are tons of fixed costs in this business and they cannot absorb some decline in revenue that stretches over to perpetuity because what they're offering isn't resonating like it should. Hence, the company needs to fortify the reputation campaign by ramping up its publicity push and various animal rescue and rehabilitation efforts while also supporting the conservation organizations. To treat the risk of insufficient funds for capital expenditure, SeaWorld needs to use risk financing by transferring the risk to an insurance company, which will in turn decrease the likelihood that SeaWorld will have to raise external funds to finance losses, while also making sure that it has sufficient internal funds for projects. This will decrease the possibility of financial distress and bankruptcy, leading to better contractual terms with suppliers, lenders, etc. SeaWorld can identify ways to decrease operational costs during cyclical periods of poor cash flows. It should regularly assess financing facilities and try to minimize unnecessary financing. In case the insufficiency of funds has been costly to a crisis, the company should reconsider or postpone capital expenditures until the situation has completely improved. Thanks for taking out time to watch our presentation.